And there's certain parts of a city that are beautiful and safe. And then there's other parts of cities that aren't so safe. The internet has beautiful parts to it. There's beautiful parts to social media here and there. And then there's really bad parts. So I think as parents, we just got to be really thoughtful to understand where these places are and have dialogue with your kids.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Breaking Bread, the podcast brought to you by Apostolic Christian Counseling and Family Services. It's always good to have you along. And I'm very happy to have Brother Jon Moser with me here today. Jon, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. It's great to be with you today. Thanks for the opportunity.
Jon lives on the East Coast, goes to our Rockville church. And Jon, I'm just really delighted and honored that you've carved out some time and space for me and for this podcast. And our topic here is tech and kids. This is a topic that I've introduced some time back and promised more episodes because we knew one episode wasn't enough to help us parents in this space with technology and kids. So our listeners are somewhat familiar with that if they've listened to that previous podcast. But I am so delighted for you to be on, Jon. I would like to introduce you in a little bit, and then I want you to kind of take that introduction and then fill in some spaces and color in the lines, if you would. But to our listeners, Jon is a very credible voice in this space of tech and kids. Probably first and foremost, he's a father. So, Jon, you've been wading through these waters with kiddos, and we are too, and that's challenging. But also in a matter of profession, Jon is CEO and founder of Final Sight. And Jon, you can say a little bit more about Final Sight, but from my understanding, it's a suite of software services that help schools manage their websites, marketing, communications, and enrollment. And so technology is the air that you breathe. So thanks for being on. Do say a little bit more about maybe your family and where your intersection here is with technology.
So Matt, again, thanks for having me on. So a little about the family. I have 5 children, Ethan, Ella, and Anna, that are twins. They're 19. I have a 16-year-old boy, Abram, and a 13-year-old girl, Lena. So I have 5 kids in the mix of this technology, growing up in this world.
All intersecting, all using technology at different ages. A 13-year-old to the older
21-year-old.
21-year-old, right? There's a lot of technology fronts you've just described there in the family.
Absolutely. And 3 of my kids work in the technology field. They're building websites for businesses, so they're there. And then the younger 2 probably use technology more partly as entertainment, partly as communication. And as you look at the whole picture, there's a lot of moving parts here. And I would also like to say I've raised my kids on a farm in Ellington, Connecticut. So if you're from Kansas, Illinois, Minnesota, just to let you know, there are farms out in Connecticut. The chicken farm, but I was actually purposeful about this. I wanted to raise my kids, they'd be in somewhat of a technology environment, but also getting enough outdoor activities and jobs and stuff that can have a good mix of both.
It's so healthy, I think, in this tech age, isn't it? We can lose sight of the real very quickly.
100%.
Tell us a little bit about Final Sight.
Yeah, absolutely. So company was started about 25 years ago to date, and we focused on independent schools, international schools, districts, charter schools. And what we do is we help them with communications. We help them with marketing, enrollment management, athletics, scheduling, mobile apps, so all this technology. And we even take social media that's shared at the school and we aggregate it for the parents, the students, and all of that. So a lot of school to home communication, and been in the tech field now for almost 25 years, and really have started when the internet started bubbling up back in 2000, and really worked with students and kids all the way through. They're better experts in this than I am, but I've definitely touched lots of areas.
For sure. I really appreciate that, Jon, and I know that you are going to be modest with your own introduction, but I do want our listeners to have a sense of the wealth of understanding and experience, Jon, that you have in this space. parents are wanting help as they think about technology and kids. And so I'm going to set the same conversation up as I've done in the previous episode. And that is, I want one thing instructive. What should we be teaching our kids? I want one thing protective. What is one thing we should be protecting our kids from? I want one thing engaging. That is conversations we should be having with our kids. And then I want one thing redeeming, and that is some of the joys that technology brings, some of the advantages. Okay. And so let's launch right into that. And let's start with redeeming, because as these things go, sometimes we can lose ourselves in the warnings and in the fright and in the protection and on all of these things. And we can lose the forest for the trees. And I know at heart, you see technology very optimistically or usefully. And I'd love you to touch on that. What is one thing redeeming as it concerns technology, Jon, as you see it in our world, especially with kids?
So, Matt, thanks for this. So I think about the tractor. When the tractor came in, farmers are like, what are we going to do? When the internet started, parents were questioning, Christians, all of us were like, how do we use this in a way that's healthy? The iPhone came, or smartphones came, and then social media, and then AI is now, we're staring at it. But if I look at things that are redeeming our time, like how can we redeem our time, and like how do we look at this in a positive way? I think all of these are opportunities for all of us. So how can we use this to be more efficient, more thoughtful? How can we reach out to grandparents where they are? My wife's from Indiana, Remington, Indiana, and we can FaceTime, we can talk. My kids can be at college for the day and they can FaceTime me. There's so much opportunity to collaborate. I travel overseas a lot in different places. You click a button and you're talking almost in real time back and forth. So the collaboration, the quickness of communicating, there's so many benefits of using the internet with devices in really healthy ways. And I always think about if you run a business, you look for efficiencies. If you're raising a family, you only have so much time. But if you could be more efficient, maybe shopping, maybe doing some of those other things, we actually can use more time to spend with our kids. We can go on walks. We can go outside more. Like, I know I'm a tech guy and I'm like, hey, technology's good, but I'm actually encouraging, like, get outside, like go for walks, make that part of your routine. Like a lot of people look at their phone, they wake up, maybe there's better things to do right when you wake up, and create good behavioral patterns and good habits. But there's tons of benefits around how we use that and what we do.
I love that. I love the optimism. And really, to redeem it, it does require that other thought that says, now what am I going to do with the time that I've just saved? That will probably be the mark of just how redeeming the technology was in the first place, which I think is a really good thing to think about. Jon, let's move now to this instruction place. What is one thing instructive as you think about parents instructing their kids, helping them understand some things in this technology world? What would be top of mind? One of those things matters be.
I'm going to really encourage parents to be engaged and understand, at least at a level, how technology works and how social media works, and then how specific programs work a little bit. You don't send your kids out in your car at 16, say, here's the keys, you're 16, go drive.
All things powerful require education, don't they? Technology is powerful.
Absolutely. I'm just going to give one really quick example.
Yeah.
So I Google just popped up something here. It says New York State Attorney General James' office explains how Meta, this is Facebook, Instagram, exploits the youth, kids. This is what it says real quick. Algorithms that are designed to recommend content to keep users on the platform longer and encourages compulsive use. It's known to harm young users. Visual filter features, so the filters that they put on cameras, is known to promote younger users' body dysphoria. Okay? So we're like, this is like a legal case that's being pushed against Facebook from the Attorney General of the state of New York.
Wow. Now,
So we're basically saying here, though, like if I can just summarize the
yep.
whole thing, Facebook makes money off of making your kids addicted to social media so they can sell the data. And also then you have body dysphoria, or you don't get enough likes in the morning, so you don't feel good about yourself for the day. But like we talk about it, you hear experts and psychologists talk about it. But the fact of the matter is, the companies who actually build this are being sued now that they're actually doing
Wow.
it. As parents, I think it's just crucially important to know this is how the company makes money. They're using your kid. So you probably should manage and make sure your kid understands how social media works and be really balanced if you let your children use it. All right,
You,
I'll pause there, Matt.
you know what, John? So you used a word twice there, and that was algorithm. And it sounds to me, my understanding of the algorithm is it is the code, it is the rhyme and the reason for how they get this done. I would love for you to be able to unpack the algorithms. Say, what should we be helping our young people, our children, understand about the algorithms on these various platforms?
TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, even Be Real, a lot of people are jumping on now. They all make money off of you scrolling and them creating a profile of you, of what you actually click on and what you do, and they actually sell your information. That's how they make money. So as parents, we should be connected to like what's going on there. So let's talk about TikTok. I'm just going to give an example.
Yeah, please do.
If you're in China and you type in something and you search, TikTok's owned by a Chinese company that's tied to the government, but they'll show like education and sports, for example, if you search for specific topics. In the US, it might show like challenges or more sexually explicit content. China, they're not doing it. They control when you do a search what actually comes up.
So the algorithm's different in China and in America.
Absolutely, it is. And you have a country who's trying to move their population forward in China, really pushing. If you're in Singapore, the children are like very focused on what they need to get for an education. They're pushing forward. It feels like in the US, the companies are sharing stuff that's probably not helping them move forward in life as much as like, let's focus on education or on growth in some way. In China, they are. In the US, we're not. So that's just TikTok. Snapchat was actually put in place to work against parents. So kids could have it, pictures, time out. They don't even store data. So if the police had to go and check out something in Snapchat, it's not stored. So you don't know what happened there. So Snapchat's been made to be like sneaky behind the scenes. And what I think if I was a parent talking to kids, I'd be like, hey, remember, if you are using Snapchat, which I recommend not starting your kid on Snapchat if you can help that, but if they are, I understand at a certain
Mhm.
level you want your kids to make choices. But if they are, you got to remember that they can do share location. So if they don't connect the real world to the virtual world, if there's someone stalking them or they have someone in their contacts that is not someone they know, like a
Yep.
friend or maybe a boy or a girl, they can see where you're at.
Mm.
So we think about as a father, like protecting my daughters, like, yeah, please don't share where you're at. You might be out somewhere and someone that's shared in your contacts can see where you're at.
Yeah.
So let's be really thoughtful on sharing location and who you let into your contacts. I always like to compare if you're on the street and someone walked up to you, you have never met before, and they said, "Can I have your phone number?" You'd be like, "No, I'm not really comfortable giving you that."
Yeah.
I think we need to think the same way when we're on the internet, just because someone wants to connect, that we don't just connect and share.
Yeah, I think there's something really profound there too, John, and that is the social graces that we have physically. We know when something's off. We know when a request, as you mentioned, "Hey, can I have your phone number?" is just not appropriate. It's hard to ask because we know it's inappropriate, and it's hard to give it because it seems off. But it seems like those lines really get blurred on social media to the point where it's too easy to ask and too easy to give, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's just a click of a button like, oh, accept, or this person looks well. As parents, we just got to understand how the internet works. And let's just talk to our kids about the real world. If you met someone in person and if you meet someone on the internet, like,
Yeah.
how do you go about that introduction and what you share, what you don't share? And those type of things I think are really important.
Well, so we've really kind of gone into this engagement part, right? The instruct our kids in terms of the algorithm, help them understand even maybe who owns the algorithm and what their motives might be with the algorithm, how the platform was designed to be built. So you have that educational piece. Now you really get into this engaging piece. What does that conversation look like as you engage your girls? Or
There are proper ways to use social media, but I always tell younger people that if the device controls you, it's wrong. You need to control the device. So if you wake up in the morning and you're like, I need my phone, that means the device controls you. You want to control the device.
you know what I like about that is we kind of know the answer to that question. Am
So
I in control or is it?
some of the smartest people in the world work for Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Be Real, and their job is to get you to stay engaged in their platform as much as possible. So just know, like, that's their objective. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's be thoughtful there. So if we talk about like contactless and who do you let in there? So you can say, all right, I'm going to be private. So I'm only going to let certain people into my Instagram or into my contact list.
Do all of those platforms have a private setting?
Most of them do have a private setting, but we got two parts here. We have one, who's my contact, and who do I share with, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the algorithms that what you're looking at, and it keeps you in a spiral. It keeps talking to you about things that you're interested in, because the more they get you to click, the longer you stay on, the better it is for the company. So when you stop and you're scrolling and you slow down or you click into something, it knows that. So it's building this algorithm personally just for you. I'm picking on you, Matt, just for you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my point. You want to take precautionary measures. And remember, anything you're putting on the internet, one, could be vulnerable at some point. Secondly, if you're on free programs, they're building a profile view of the data, which they're selling to people. So you will end up buying something from them someday. Now, we talked about education a little bit. What are a couple things you could do just to be a little more careful about your privacy, right? Is you could have one email address you use for buying and shopping and doing that stuff as parents. And then you could have your own personal one you connect with your friends with. As a kid, you could have two email addresses. You use one for if your parents let you game online or you're attached to social media, you use that account. And then you have one that you work with family and friends, right? So you have two accounts.
Be clear again, John, to why two accounts.
So one is so you have one email account that you use for social media or buying stuff online because they sell that data. They shop it out. They build profiles around it. And then you have another email address that you use for everything else that you do. All the collaboration with people one-on-one directly. It's your cell phone number and it's your email address. You use most of your collaboration of friends, family, whatever it would be.
I think that's helpful.
The next area I would really consider is a VPN. So I don't want to get too technical here. Like, this is not supposed to be like tech shop, but I use a VPN on my phone and on my computer all the time, and it can block malware and it can block all the tracking that's going on through all the ads and all the gaming stuff and all that. and you can buy one and put it on your computer. And just when you're connected to the internet, it helps encrypt the data getting out, and they're not tracking you everywhere. Because you go shop on Amazon, all of a sudden you're seeing an ad in the gaming program you're using,
Mm.
or you go here and all of a sudden you see ads here. This will
Yeah.
block all of that that's on there, and it actually keeps your kids and the parents a lot safer. Like there's something called Proton VPN. It's out of
Okay.
Switzerland. Well, it's just one of many, but I've done a lot of research, and I think that's like a good one that you could buy, and you can put it on 10 different devices if you wanted to. I'm not trying to make
Yeah.
people sneaky or overly private.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is realize, like, if you're using free programs or whatever it is, your data is being shared and tracked, and this will help.
That's really helpful, and this really addresses my objective for protection. In what ways should we be protecting? And you've provided some very tangible things here in this, John. But I'm going to press you a little bit further with this protecting against privacy. That's really what I'm hearing you, protecting your privacy. We've talked about location on Snapchat. We've talked about profiles on free Gmail accounts or source platforms we're using. All right, so I'm going to confess to you, I don't know how many I accept privacy statements I've scrolled to the bottom of and haven't read. I accept, right? Oh, here it is. I've got to let me scroll through here. I've not read one from top to finish. John, am I a terrible person? So I feel like we are inundated with these privacy statements that we don't even know what I've just agreed to.
That is true. You don't know what you agreed to. And I'm going to be honest with you too. There's no way I'm going to take the time to read through a privacy statement either. But just know, if it's for free, they're selling your data. Okay. Like that's almost a given, whether it's social media, Gmail, Google makes all their money on building profiles and selling data and marketing, right? Like that's how they make their money. So you know what they're doing and how they make money.
Give us a little tips, some tips on websites that are suspicious, websites that could perhaps contain malware or otherwise.
So one good thing about search engines, like for Google or Bing or Yahoo, a lot of these sites that show up on like the first 3, 4 pages are sites that get a lot of hits. It's tied into algorithms. So a lot of that content's pretty safe on those websites. And now if you're searching for topics that are pretty foreign, if you can say that, not mainstream
Mm-hmm.
words, of course you're going to find sites that are less hit that could have that. But going to sites that have like a lot of graphics or foreign sites, like if you're in the US and you're browsing sites that are in other countries, you got to be thoughtful of where you go, because the algorithms that are built around the search engine in the US are going to be sites that we look at and people around there. But there's going to be less people that look at specific sites depending on where you are in the world. So I think you just got to be really thoughtful. If it's a common brand that you see on the street, a lot of times it's pretty safe. You don't have to worry about it.
Hmm.
But if you're going to sites that you can almost go on a site and intuitively know this is a little strange, it doesn't look right, that maybe you shouldn't be on that site and you should leave. And even, I know we're not getting into pornography and some of that today, but pornography sites are really known for dropping malware on your machines, like because there's rogue places all over the world that are doing this stuff. So I'm not trying to scare people, but I also want people to be thoughtful. Like, actually, the sites we shouldn't be on
Yeah.
are the sites we actually shouldn't be on.
Yeah. How about browsers? Do you have favorite browsers, dangerous browsers? What's your sense on that?
Some good lessons, Matt,
Yeah.
on how to use your browsers on your computer is pick 2 different browsers to do different things. So an example, you could use Safari if you're on a Mac and use that as your primary browser for all your personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then use Chrome for all your business related stuff. So you might run an online store, you might do something on the internet. Use Chrome as your primary browser for doing all business related stuff. Maybe you're gaming if you're a kid. but then use like the other browser, Chrome, that's tied to the OS to save all your stuff, to use that more as your personal, like if you're doing shopping or something like that. I've seen people use that and be very successful with
Nice. I think that's helpful.
it. So Matt, in the end here, we're talking about all this technology and there's a lot of good to it. And there's some dangers like everything else. You can go to a city and there's certain parts of a city that are beautiful and safe. And then there's other parts of cities that aren't so safe. The internet has beautiful parts to it. There's beautiful parts to social media here and there. And then there's really bad parts. So I think as parents, we just got to be really thoughtful to understand where these places are and have dialogue with your kids. And the kids actually understand the difference between a virtual world and a real world that we live in. And I'm going to encourage parents, like, make sure you have some chickens outside your house. Make sure you have like a dog is great and cats are great, but chickens create eggs. Put a little farm stand outside. Like, do something to go outside and do activities and make it part of the routine. And I always say, don't let the device control you. You control the device. And if you say that to yourself and like, shoot, that device controls me, I'm impulsive, you gotta reframe it. You gotta retrain. It takes 3 weeks to retrain something in our human bodies. So let's use that time and figure out how to retrain and be thoughtful and get outside.
I love it. I love it. One thing instructive, we talked about algorithms and the platforms and how they work. One thing protective, we've talked about data security here. And you've really made us really face the music on how our data is being shared and what we're really signing up for when we get a free account anywhere. You've invited us to engage ourselves, but also our kids on this element of control. Who's in control? Do you feel it's control over us and then redeeming using technology as we connect? It's a beautiful place and a beautiful landscape if when healthy. It does have a dark side, but speaking to this engagement, I think is really, really exciting. Jon, it's been a privilege. For our listeners, I'm going to include some of the notes that Jon has shared with me in the show notes, so you'll be able to maybe find some of those resources there, and hopefully that will be helpful to you. To each one who came, who listened in, thank you. We know this is a lot. This is the world that we live in, and we trust that this could support and bless you as you steward your families through the waters of technology. Thanks for being on, Jon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time.